Ah, my dear Nesbitt, how are you?
Always a pleasure to talk to Rowan Hand, so I'm in very good form. Very good form.
You cheer me immensely. Gone are the days when we worked together on the desks within the BBC and you were putting out Good Morning Ulster.
Yes, but in a way, very fond memories of that time, Rowan. Though, of course, it was well before the ceasefires and the stock in trade of Good Morning Ulster, I'm afraid, was bombs and bullets and death and destruction and a lot of political mudslinging, and I suppose while we've come a long way on the first front, there's still plenty of mud.
Those were the days. Those were the days I was guiding Jerry Adams in through the front door and Ian Paisley out through the back.
So I remember an election program, Rowan, and of course I was in the studio, so I didn't see it. But one of the very kind secretaries had picked up, I think it was Jerry Adams, and had him in the main lift in the reception of the BBC, and as the door was closing, she noticed one of her colleagues collecting Ian Paisley. So she put her elbow out to block the lift door from closing. And her colleague was looking at her with that look of the frightened rabbit in the headlights, saying, go on, for goodness sake. But she didn't quite twig it. And what a moment. What a moment. And they didn't travel together in the lift.
Absolutely. Michael, why are you doing it? It's a poison chalice. Anywhere you go now, you're recognised. Anywhere you go now, people either love you or hate you. What's the balance in your life?
Well, I suppose I'm doing it because I'm driven to do it, Rowan. For whatever reason, I feel in my heart it's something that I want to do. And listen, it was a very privileged position to present Good Morning Ulster, and before that to be a sports reporter with the BBC. That was great fun. And also to be on TV doing the nightly news and the political interviews. It is a very, very privileged position. You're in the grandstand seat and you're being paid for it, which is, it is really, truly privileged. But, as time went on, although people would come up to you and talk about the interview with Adams or the interview with Paisley or the politics of the day, that's exactly what it was, Rowan. It was of the moment. And I don't think it had any particular lasting value.
You used a phrase to me moments ago about being there for the long haul. What's at the end of that road?
A peaceful society, a fair society, a just society where you really can be British, Irish, or other, whatever other happens to be, and people do not think less of you for it. They respect your right to say you're British or you're Irish or you're from another culture or community, and that we all get up in the morning with a sense of purpose in our lives. We all go to bed with a sense of having achieved something, where we feel that the economy and our education and our health services and our housing are better than they are today, that we have trust in our politicians, that we have confidence in the people running our services, and we have hope of better for tomorrow, not just for ourselves, but for our children and our grandchildren.
You mentioned a moment ago, you were talking about the 2 years that you're in office now. You're describing a nirvana there. We're generations away from that, or do you have a sense it is closer than we might expect?
Well, it could be closer than we expect, I think, Rowan. If we take, for example, just to illustrate the point, because I think it is a very good question, is it going to take generations? Let's look at education. In my view, what we should do is commit to a single education system. Not integrated education as a sector within education, but as no sectors, just one single education system. So our children come together from the age of 3 or 4 years old, and they therefore effectively inoculate themselves against sectarianism. Now, to achieve that fully could take 10, 15, maybe 20 years, even if we commit today. But if we commit today, there will be communities who are ready to start tomorrow. And clearly there'll be others who won't be. And it's not a question of saying to those who need time, to sort of verbally beat them up and say, why can't you be like the quote-unquote good people of down the road who are starting it today? Just to recognize people are in different places today. Then some people will need longer than others to go on the journey. But if we agree on the merits of the journey, then let's make let's make a start. And can I just say, because I know some people find the idea of a single education system in some way to be almost sectarian, I simply don't accept that we cannot do this in a way that respects and protects religious education for whatever faith.
Presumably within the curriculum of the single system, you would have due deference there on all occasions to individual religious traditions.
Absolutely guaranteed whatever the churches want, and particularly whatever the parents want. But I think it would be good for children to be exposed to the various religions, giving special place where appropriate to the religion that their parents wish them to pursue. But to inoculate children against sectarianism would be the most marvellous step forward.
I love that phrase, inoculate children against sectarianism. And all my life, I've been a proponent of that point of view. So am I really a unionist at heart, I wonder?
Well, it depends, because, as I've tried to say, the Ulster Unionist Party, it is not a religious organisation. It's a political party. We believe in the Union not because we're Protestants. We believe in it because of the economic, social and cultural benefits. And therefore, a Catholic can be a Unionist as much as a Protestant can.
We had the first Catholic Unionist ever from this town of Newry many years ago, Louis Boyle. And he broke all records at the time. He was an icon of change at that time. It's a long time ago.
And we had Sir John Gorman, who was a war hero from the Second World War, absolutely. A Catholic who went on to be Deputy Speaker in the Assembly here.
Tell me this: why did John? We're talking about bringing people along the idea of the inoculation system against sectarianism. That's a grand plan. It'll solve everything, or a lot of the things in the medium term to long term. But why did you fall out with John McAllister, and why did he go away and found Northern Ireland 21?
I don't really know, Rowan. I really don't really know why John and Basil chose to leave the party, because 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, when I joined the party, it seemed to me that of the MLA group, the three people who were most in line in terms of what we thought politically and the political policies we supported were John McAllister, Basil McCrae and myself. So it is difficult for me to accept that they left on a matter of political policy or political principle.
Do you still talk to them?
I still talk to them, absolutely.
Civility.
The difficulty was when they were in the party, and particularly after I got the leadership, it was very difficult to get them to sit down and have a discussion. It seemed that they had predetermined the outcome.
Yeah. Michael, the Haas, what sort of guy was Haas that you spent 6 months trying to do the business with?
Well, I liked Richard Haas and I liked Megan O'Sullivan. I have to say that the way the process went, really, the teams represented the parties for probably the first 4.5 months, Rowan. So it was really only coming into December that I engaged. But I did meet them right at the beginning of the process in the kind of initial meeting back in July. Look, they're very intelligent people. They're very well-read people. They're people with a huge amount of experience in world affairs. Having listened to some of their comments afterwards, Rowan, I wonder whether, I'm not saying they were misled deliberately, but it seems to me from some of those comments they were taken aback by the strength of difference within the parties of the executive. Perhaps they came in thinking that this deal was sort of nearly over the line, and it just needed a couple of people with their kind of mediating skills to encourage people over the finish line. It was far from that.
I thought afterwards that it was a case of Richard saying, "Look, do it the way I want it done, because I know that this is the right way, and you must do it." Now, you don't. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still, and he wasn't going to win with that kind of attitude.
No, and he was at pains at times to say that he wasn't a George Mitchell, that he wasn't an Eames Bradley. He was not there to try and say this is how you fix this. He was there to facilitate, but in the end,
that's what he was.
He did basically that Haas 7. That final document was a take it or leave it.
Aye. What was the straw that broke the camel's back for you when you said
no? Well, the 3 chapters, Rowan. So it's bit more difficult to explain than in just saying it was this. But in terms of the parades, I thought we were very, very close. There were three issues, two with regard to the sort of criteria that would be used in determinations, and the other was there was this famous code of conduct. And since then, I've called on all the loyal orders that they should produce their own voluntary code of conduct, because it surprised me to learn that some of them don't have their own voluntary codes of conduct. So I think they should do that, because I don't see how anybody would want to leave home, whether they're going parading or going to the shops or whatever, without wishing to be lawful and respectful to others. So I think that's an easy one to park. The flag piece fell apart right from the start, because there were some parties who refused to separate out sovereignty and identity. Now, on identity, Rowan, if somebody wants to say they're Irish and they want to fly a tricolour in their home, or they want to wear a green top, I have no difficulty, Rowan. I ran for the Irish schools team. I've worn a green jersey with a shamrock on it, and proudly stood on the podium representing Ireland, only at schools athletics, but at least I did it. But that is different. Identity is different from sovereignty. And sovereignty was settled by everybody in '98 in the agreement, and the sovereignty of Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. So the Union flag is the only flag that reflects the sovereignty, and it was regrettable we couldn't agree that and then go on to discuss how we might give that manifestation.
Did you sense at all that Sinn Féin were generous? And I think it was 15 days they agreed that the flag would be flown.
Well, there was actually no, in any discussions I was in, there was no agreement in terms of that, Rowan, because, for example, I was in a meeting where very clearly Sinn Féin said where they had the minister in terms of the Northern Ireland Executive Department, such as agriculture and rural development, the flag would not fly, period. And interestingly, on CNN, American news television recently, Megan O'Sullivan described the attitude of some towards sovereignty and how they confused that with identity as immature. And again, I think that was one of the things that surprised them in terms of the parties weren't as close to stepping over the line as perhaps they had come to believe.
People from our part of the world are renowned for getting things done, engaging in the art of the possible, and not for what they imagine they want to happen. We're way long past the moment where the two positions are solidly defined, and it's the immovable object on the line, and the unstoppable business of attitudes. Where can we take it forward? Because if people stand solidly, as we say, on their particular bias for the flags, never the twain shall meet.
I couldn't agree more, Rowan, and you used the key word there, business. I mean, as well as being a broadcaster, I worked for a few years in the private sector in business. As a broadcaster, I was self-employed. So, when you go in to do a deal, whether it was with UTV, the BBC, or a commercial organisation, you do a deal. And if you sit down at the table, you do deals, and you recognise sometimes, that the other guy is going to come out of it a couple of dollars better off than you are. Yeah. But next time, you'll make it back. And that's the way it is in business. But that's not the way it is in politics, because there is this perception that it is a one-way street, that every time one side ends up a couple of dollars better off than the other. And the missing element, Rowan, is on page 1 of the Belfast Agreement, the Good Friday Agreement, mutual trust. And we've failed to build mutual trust over the last 16 years. And I don't want to point the finger. I think everybody could do better. But what we could really do to make things better going forward is say, we accept that there has been a failure in establishing mutual trust, and we'll redouble our efforts.
That seems a reasonable thing to be trying to achieve.
Yes. And, it means, for example, it means I went up last year to Phelan Fubble in West Belfast for the West Belfast Talks Back event, and you take the criticism, you take the hit, but I think people appreciate you going and doing it and respecting their point of view. And, if somebody is saying, I am Irish, that's my identity, and I also choose to live in Northern Ireland, that's great. That's great. How can you make a positive contribution to society so we can all move on?
But sadly,
My children, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, sadly, we're not even at the table of understanding each other. Never mind building a new education system that's going to take us forward to the new nirvana. We don't have the mechanism in place to start learning how to trust. Never mind anything else, Mike.
No, but it comes back to conversations, Rowan, and I don't want to poke at other parties, but at the same time, I'm not going to just stand there and let them poke at me because, for example, Martin McGuinness last week in the Assembly said I was a major disappointment. In the Haas talks, in a bilateral we had with Sinn Féin, I was asked directly would I support an Irish Language Act, and my response was this: I can't say yes or no because an act is a means to an end, and I don't know what the end would be. So I asked Sinn Féin, what is the end? What are you trying to accomplish with an act? What does success mean in terms of you being able to demonstrate and celebrate your Irishness? Now, we weren't able to have the conversation that day. I've since challenged both Jerry Kelly and Martin McGuinness separately to have that conversation with me. So that's 3 times I have asked for the conversation, and it still hasn't happened. And it's the sort of conversation that we need to happen if we're going to find a game changer.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we are. Never mind Haas, never mind a unified education system. We're exactly at changing the game of being able to talk to each other. We're not at the moment.
Yeah. And you look at that beautiful funeral mass for Eddie Hawkins at Ballyedmond.
Yeah.
And the people who attended that. And and he's a great loss because he was a unifying figure, Rowan, as I'm sure you would agree.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if people can come together there, we can come together in other places.
Well, no,
and we can do more listening as well as more talking.
Michael, that's a good point at which to leave it. That is absolutely spot on, I think. And may it happen, may it happen.
Oh, I hope so. And I think it will. It's frustratingly slow, Rowan. I think everybody accepts that, and politicians take the brunt of the criticism, and that's fair enough. But it won't put me off, for one.
Hey, that sounds good. Go well, Mike Nesbitt. Take care. Good luck.
You too, Rowan.
Take care.
Pleasure.
Bye.